Awesome. Um, Hope everyone's doing well again this week. And hopefully everyone can see my screen here. Yeah, so great. We'll get started. Let's see. Okay. Alrighty. So once again, thank you so much for coming out this week. I really appreciate it. I know everyone's always busy during the middle of the week, and especially with all of you tuning in from the East Coast. I know it's 10 p.m. So thanks for making it out tonight. I really appreciate that. Yeah, so now we're session 5 already. It seems crazy that we've already had 4 sessions already, and we're heading into session 5. So yeah, and as always, my name is Vinay Verma, of course, and then my Gmail is down right there, and you can see my Instagram handle right here. And as always, you can contact me on any form of social media, including my Facebook, just Vinay Verma as well on my Facebook. And yeah, my email as well is probably the best way to contact me if you have any questions whatsoever, if you want to learn more, or if you had specific questions further about anything I brought up in my sessions, or if you want me to put something else in my sessions that I didn't have before, just shoot me an email or contact me on social media. I love to speak with all you guys. So we are now on session 5 of our roadmap here. And as you can see, today we're going to be talking about the really important concept of scale anxiety. This is really important. I know a lot of people are often afraid to weigh themselves and are scared about what the scale might say, and are scared about what that number says about them. So we're really going to take a dive into, how to interpret this and how to go about this. So yeah, this is going to be a really good session. I'm excited for it. And as always, my previous sessions are always on my YouTube channel and they're recorded there. And please watch those sessions if you have not already, because each session builds on the rest. So please check it out on my YouTube channel. Yeah. So again, if you're new to today, please put your email in the Zoom chat function, because I send out weekly email blasts regarding information for the newest sessions and the Zoom link and such. And as always, it's going to be the same Zoom ID. And please, tell a friend who might be interested. Just tell one person. I really appreciate if, more people could come and, learn about fitness, because it's not really so much for me, but it's more for you. I really want, good information to be perpetuated and given throughout the community, because there's a lot of information out there, but not all of it is correct. And it's really nice to have, a group of individuals that can collaborate and go to their community and be advocates for proper health information. So please tell a friend who might be interested. And please, as always, please subscribe and like my videos on YouTube. I put my recordings there. I also just did a video this weekend of a fitness workout, a vlog on my local gym. I'm editing that right now. Currently, that's going to be up on my YouTube channel very soon. So I just filmed that. That's going to be up there very soon. So keep posted for that. So yeah, as always, I want to give a little recap on the past session. We talked about intermittent fasting and time restricted eating. Basically, we talked about how intermittent fasting is based on setting up eating windows and is based on basically keeping your insulin levels at bay. And it's currently a fad right now that's really taking over the fitness industry. And I'm sure everyone has seen or heard people who are intermittent fasting or, speak about intermittent fasting. But really, at the end of the day, you still got to remember that it's a calories in, calories out game, that even if you fast and you fast for the first 6 hours of the day, but then you binge during your eating window and you go over the amount of calories you're supposed to eat, you're still going to gain calories. So if you go over your maintenance level calories, which we spoke about in sessions 1 and 2, so please check that out if you haven't already, because those are really important for the information going prior. If you spill over, that's going to be, an increase in weight gain and body fat gain. So it really comes down still to calories in, calories out. And recall, we talked about the hormones of leptin and ghrelin and what those do, and why ghrelin can have an effect on intermittent fasting, and why when we fast for long periods of time, we get hit with this big wave of ghrelin. So that's an important thing to understand. Also, we talked about, like I said, always comes back to calories in, calories out. We can't get away from that no matter how hard we try. And basically just make smart choices, right? Don't worry about the fasting windows. Don't worry about fasting in general. If you are intermittent fasting right now and it's worked for you, please keep doing it. If it works for you, great. But just keep in mind that you're going to get to a point where you need to be aware of the calories you're eating. And just simply fasting itself will not lead to weight loss. Being in a calorie deficit will lead to a weight loss. So I usually advocate, some people, really break their backs trying to fast, and it's really hard for them because they're starving in the morning. And my answer to that would be, then don't fast. Just have a light 100 to 200 calorie breakfast. You'd be surprised how much 200 calories can go from protein bars to big omelets to smoothies. You can have a nice little breakfast, a good breakfast, a large breakfast for just 200 calories with a lot of protein in it, especially if you're trying to gain muscle. Fasting is probably not optimal for muscle growth, and you should be looking at around 3 to 4 feeds of protein per day to maximize muscle growth. So definitely have your breakfast. If you can, just have a little bit of something. It's important because if you try to fast, the evidence shows, you try talking to people who try fasting sometimes. Some people love it. Some people end up binging during their windows because they're just so hungry from having to fast. So keep that in mind. And like I said, I talked about this in more detail in my past session. But yeah, so calories in, calories out. Don't worry about intermittent fasting. It really is not, unless you're a type 2 diabetic, intermittent fasting is really not necessary. So I just want to take a quick detour before I head into the content of session 5. I've been getting some questions, and it's a pretty big debate right now in the fitness community, not in the fitness community, just in the health, just general with the health standpoint, is calories in, calories out, is it correct? Is it too simple? Are we missing something? There's been a lot of proponents saying that it's too simple and it's not, a good explanation for weight loss. So essentially the real answer they're saying is that hormones and macronutrient composition is really the main way to lose body fat. And essentially that your hormones is what we should really be focusing on, not the calories, that the hormones have a bigger effect. And they're something that we should look at more as opposed to calories, because everything from your basal metabolic rate to how you burn calories, everything's to do with your hormones. That's the new growing movement. And essentially that, calories are just too simple. It doesn't work. And really, also they're saying that, calories in and calories out they're not independent variables, meaning that if you reduce your calories in, that doesn't mean, basically it's saying that your calories out will reduce by the same amount, such that if I decrease my calories by 300, calories, my energy expenditure will also decrease. So meaning that they're saying that calories in and calories out are not independent variables, and they vary based on what you do to them. So really, even if you are in a calorie deficit, you technically aren't, because your body will compensate for it. So basically you're taking a hormonal standpoint, saying that hormones are the factor that, dictate body fat levels, and that, you can't just reduce your calories because your body will compensate. So those are the main proponents, but I really want to just emphasize that this is not correct. This could not be farther from the truth. And time after again, we've looked at journals and different specific papers that have looked into this since the 1910s that have looked into calorie restriction. And at the end of the day, there's thousands upon thousands of studies that are for simply calories in, calories out, that say that this is a truth. It's the first law of thermodynamics. It's to do with energy. It's 100% a truth. And for some reason, people choose to ignore all these studies, and they want to flip the fitness industry on its head. And I'm not sure why. So this is an example of a paper. It's basically a meta-analysis. What that is that it's basically a composition of a bunch of different studies that just come together and essentially look at a bunch of studies that talk about calories in, calories out, and they bring it all together and they kind of come to a conclusion about what all these studies say. And if there's differing findings in other studies, they kind of analyze those differing findings and see if there was issues with the way they conducted those studies. So the main conclusion from this big study here, this was actually published in the American Journal of Physiology, Endocrinology, and Metabolism. And it was, published in 2017. So it was pretty relevant, pretty new. A lot of people cite articles from 1912 for, there's for the hormonal standpoint when, it's outdated. We got to look at, new science. And what it says here is quite simply that weight gain or loss is not primarily determined by varying proportions of carbohydrate. CHO means carbohydrate, and fat in the diet, but instead numbers of calories ingested. changes in EE, meaning energy expenditure, are basically are quite modest when compared to the calorie intake. So remember I said how people are saying calories in, calories out are influenced by each other. They're saying that as you decrease your calories in, your calories out will decrease subsequently by the same relative amount. This is just saying that it's quite modest. That doesn't actually happen. So your changes in your energy expenditure really don't change that much. It's still a calories in, calories out game. And until high quality metabolic primary data become available, a calorie is still a calorie. So this is in the American Journal of Physiology, and they say it again and again and again. So many studies say it's calories in, calories out. Don't worry about your keto, right? So carbohydrates don't matter. The fat just, it comes down to the number of calories ingested. This is said time and time again. And basically, a lot of people talk about, yes, so if I take in less calories, what does happen to our body? So there's something called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, also known as NEAT. And what happens is that NEAT is basically the body movements we're not aware of every day that lead to our overall basal metabolic rate. So it could be, hand movements like I'm doing right now, pacing around when we're talking on the phone, fidgeting. These are just things our body does, and we burn calories with that, right? So, and the amount we do these things is unconscious and actually influenced by our energy levels. When we actually, in a cutting phase, let's say we choose to go on a diet and we eat less calories, unconsciously, our body will decrease the amount of these movements we do, because what our body wants to do, it wants to stay alive, right? It doesn't want to waste away. So what our body does is that it will decrease these number of these movements and decrease the amount of calories we expend from doing these non-exercise activity thermogenesis movements. So less fidgeting. Maybe if I was in a diet, I wouldn't be moving my hands as much, or I wouldn't be wanting to pace around when I'm on the phone. I may have the inclination to sit down while I'm on the phone. So therefore, as we start taking less calories, our NEAT decreases as our body's trying to prevent too much loss. We don't want to waste away. However, people use this fact as basically everything. They say that, oh, since your NEAT decreases when you go in a caloric deficit, then you're not losing calories from fat. And that's not the case. Essentially, what happens is what they're saying is that if you decrease your calories by 300 calories, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis value will also decrease by 300 calories. That's just not true, right? That's the same thing as saying that if I were to eat 500 calories in excess, right, my body would magically do some work, 500 calories of work, and I would never gain weight, which is not true. So we need to understand that, although NEAT is important, right, it doesn't change the fact that it's still a calories in, calories out game. And we need to know that this understanding of this theory doesn't really change depending on how much calories we take in. So this is just to put a nail in the coffin right here about for people who just still can't, try to understand that calories in, calories out really matters. And it's, again, from the same study from the Journal of Endocrinology in that physiology journal. And it says that although a decline in metabolic rate during periods of calorie deprivation certainly occurs, which I just said, yeah, it occurs, the fact that it's not really that important, such that it doesn't exceed the original calorie deficit prescribed. So if I were eating a 300 calorie deficit, your decrease in NEAT doesn't really, exceed that. In fact, it says good adherence to a diet. That's why I advocate for don't just diet for a day or two. It's got to be for months, and it's got to be just not a week or so. Good adherence to a diet may actually overcome this decrease in adaptive thermogenesis. And you're basically says here that the degree of metabolic adaptation may occur independently of total baseline body fat, meaning that all this energy expenditure stuff that I've been talking about occurs independently of your loss of body fat. So your body fat decreasing will still happen if you're in a calorie deficit. It's that simple. Therefore, in this big blue thing I saw here, it just says, unfortunately, some observers have misinterpreted the data. And basically, they say that calorie balance and applications as portion controls are irrelevant or archaic. And this conclusion is misguided and has the potential to undermine significant progress. So basically saying calories in, calories out does not matter is misinterpreting information, and it has the possibility to really hurt a lot of people's progress. So this is information that should not be taken lightly. This is information that if you spread the fact that calories in, calories out doesn't matter, you might directly be leading to somebody not losing the weight they need to be losing. So it's a vast misinterpretation that we think calories in, calories out doesn't work. So proof, Members in the fitness community, everyone who generally looks the way they like to look like, or someone who looks pretty fit and healthy, they follow calories in, calories out. Athletes cut for mates. Athletes basically would cut for meets or weightlifting meets. They just cut their calories. Bodybuilders before shows, they go on a cut and they can lose 10 pounds in a month quickly by just cutting their calories. Myself, I've lost by doing calories in, calories out. I've lost over 20 pounds just by doing it. I mean, unless the scale and everything else is lying to me, and you know how everything looked, it works. So I did this and it works for me. I recently tried this with my mom as well, and she's lost 27 pounds and counting. So by tracking your calories, I'm not like joking. It does work. Like the whole point people talk about it is that like it does have an effect. And if you do count your calories, you will lose weight if you're in a calorie deficit. It's that simple. People who try to say something, try to talk about hormones, it just really confuses people, and it can lead to an issue, for a lot of people's lives. So please don't spread wrong information. So the evidence for calories and calories out is all around us. We just need to not ignore it. Even people in the 70s, Arnold Schwarzenegger would do calories in, calories out. And I don't think things have changed. I don't think, physics has changed since the 70s. So it works, right? So they say, in studies that calories in, calories out doesn't work. Well, often if some studies say this, it's because they didn't really teach their participants to actually track their calories. They do it based on eyeballing and that kind of thing. We talked about, I think in session 2 or 3, that eyeballing calories really doesn't work if you don't have experience in tracking your calories in the first place. So how can I know what 100 calories of chicken looks like if I've never actually weighed out 100 calories of chicken? So this means that it's not that calories in, tracking your calories doesn't work. It's just that people just don't know how to do it correctly. So we need to really be aware of that. And I know I took a little bit of a detour here, but I really want to make sure that this is understood, that this calories in, calories out really matters. And like I said, the best results will be when you do track them, like with MyFitnessPal, like we talked in like session 2, plain and simple. However, if it can't fit your lifestyle for some reason, if you really don't want to track your calories, maybe again, like I said, as you start doing it, it'll become easier and easier and easier. But for some reason, if it just may not fit your lifestyle, I understand. At least track for a week or so, just so you can get an idea about how to eyeball things a little bit, just to see how some foods you eat, what the calories are on them, just kind of get an idea about it. Then from there, you can maybe go on with maybe not necessarily tracking, but just making good choices. So like, for example, lean meats instead of full fat meats, or cooking spray instead of cooking oil, like we saw the olive oil, right? So egg whites instead of whole eggs, powdered peanut butter for regular peanut butter, foods high in fiber and protein, Smart Pop popcorn, right? We talked about that. That's not Skinny Pop, right? Smart Pop is really low in calories. It's high in fiber instead of like chips. And then, protein pancakes instead of regular pancakes, 0-calorie sodas instead of regular sodas, and black coffee instead of your double you get at Tim Hortons, right? The 2 creams, 2 sugars. We don't want that. So the list goes on, right? There's a lot of, so if you don't want to track your calories, there's many ways you can get away with decreasing your caloric intake by just making these choices here, right? Just making better choices, being informed about, okay, there are substitutions to higher caloric options. We can make these substitutions, and we can thus decrease our calories in and thus lose body fat if that is your goal. So the thing about it is that by making these decisions, it will be instrumental in basically maintaining body weight or even losing body fat. So we need to understand that making these choices matters, right? Don't think that, whatever I do, if I decrease my calories in, my body will compensate. No, it really won't. If you decrease your calories in, you're going to lose body fat if you do it for a significant period of time, right? Not just for a day or two. It's got to be for the rest of your life, make these changes. And for bread too, I often heard, I had a question the other day. People said, is bread healthy? Right. And it's a good question, actually, because I've heard this quite a bit, is bread healthy? And it comes down to what we talked about in session 1 and 2, that what makes something unhealthy is the amount of it you're eating, not necessarily the thing itself. So, but however, for bread, there are actually breads that are higher in calories than other breads, right? So actually, white bread for some reason has a bad rap, which I don't know why. It's actually pretty low in calorie compared to most seed breads. Like a lot of pumpernickel seeded breads are actually higher in calorie than white bread. And white bread is pretty low in calories, not really anything bad with it. It's just, it's pretty simple. So, and same thing with wheat. Wheat's low in calories as well. So I would say if you want to stick to bread, go with wheat and white. Those should be your main two breads. That's really the main breads I eat. Keep it simple. Sometimes sourdough might be good, but there's certain cuts of sourdough that can be higher in calories than others. Usually I just go to Save On Foods and I get like the cuts were like for 50 grams of bread, it's 2 slices. So yeah, just be simple with the food you choose and, stick to the basics. So now, on to session 5 now. I've finished my, kind of rant about, why eat calories in, calories out matters. I know we talked about calories in, calories out a lot in session 1 and 2, but I just had been getting some questions from individuals from things they've heard outside the session about why maybe calories in, calories out doesn't quite do the job. And I just wanted to address those things so we can kind of come to a better consensus. So now, we're going to talk about scale anxiety, right? So I really want to talk about what that number on the scale says. Like, what does it mean, right? Is it solely indicative on your body fat levels? Is it solely indicative on your muscle level? What really is it? What is it? What are the components that go into that number on that screen there? So recall that we're around 60 to 70% water. Depending on your body part, it can be up to 80% water. So we really are, most of our bodies consist of water. And we talked about in session 1 how every gram of glycogen holds around 3 to 4 grams of water. So like the more carbohydrates you ingest, the more body water or water you will hold in your, or water weight you're going to hold in your body. So just keep that in mind right there. And then let's see, we need to aim. So another thing too is that if you want to gain a single pound of fat, you have to eat in excess of 3,500 calories. So that's quite a bit of a caloric excess, right? 3,500 calories over what you normally eat. That's quite a bit. So just keep in mind that it's not actually that easy to gain a single pound of fat in a day, right? So that's what makes an individual gain fat is, bad choices over time, right? That's essentially what happens, or inactivity over time. So I want to ask a question too, but what is the best way to really track our progress? And it is the scale, right? So after we got these numbers out of the way here with the water and then the pound of fat, I'm doing that so you can get your bearings on what that number can really mean for us. So the scale is the best way to essentially track our progress. It allows a quantitative way to see how you're doing, or from day to day, am I following my diet correctly? However, for some reason, the scale has gotten a bit of a bad rap and has become a vessel for anxiety for many. If you've ever felt this, or if you've seen people express this, that they're scared to step on the scale. They don't want to see the number because they're scared that when they see the number, it's going to be bad. And then automatically they're going to have a thought about, I'm not doing good on my diet. I'm overweight. I don't look at whatever. You're going to spiral, right? But this is not how it's supposed to be. And we're going to talk about that in a sec. So if you have ever felt scale anxiety, you're not alone. It's very common. Like I said, people think that if the scale goes up, the body fat is going up too. That means they're going to be gaining more weight. They're gaining more body fat. No, that's not that simple. People think that if the scale's going down, they're losing fat. It's not that simple either. So we need to kind of take more of a holistic approach to what this is. So what does this number really mean? You need to understand that normally your weight will fluctuate throughout the entire day, upwards of 4 pounds, right? You should try it. Like weigh yourself in the morning, right before you've eaten, after you go to the bathroom, and then weigh yourself after a meal, weigh yourself in the middle of the day, and weigh yourself at night. And you'll see that, wow, I'm like differing like 2 to 3, 4 pounds up here. Like what's the deal? And that's just because, we're humans. We go through changes throughout the day, and it covers quite a range of what we do. And this is why it's important to monitor your weight at set times. So if you're monitoring your weight, but you're monitoring at different times, like every day. So one day you check your weight in the morning, and then one day you check your weight in the afternoon, and then the day after that you check it at night. It's not consistent. You need to have a stable baseline. So what I recommend is to get an actual confounded weight value that's not confounded by the food you eat or the amount of water you drink, or that just your actual weight. It's basically weigh yourself as soon as you wake up and after you go to the bathroom. So therefore you've had no water, you have no food. It's just literally you've just woken up, right? And after you go to the bathroom, then essentially that will be your weight for the day. So that's what I recommend. Do that every day after you wake up. That should be your baseline weight, right? And that's when you should weigh yourself every day. So then not only do we have fluctuations during the day, but we have fluctuations day to day. So how I weighed Monday might not be the same as I weighed Tuesday and Wednesday. Everything might change, right? And this might change for a number of reasons, right? So basically sodium intake, if we eat more salt one day, our body will subsequently hold more water via the principle of osmosis. And subsequently, like I said, carbohydrate intake. For every gram of carb we store 4 grams of water. It's a 4-to-1 water to carb ratio there. So that can change too. And also how close you eat relative to when you sleep. So if you're weighing yourself in the morning and you wake up for a midnight snack, that food could still be in your system. So just keep that in mind. So there's lots of factors. So you can see that there's just a lot of factors that go into the scale, right? And it's not just fat gain and fat loss. There's a lot of factors with water, sodium, glucose, everything. Like there's a lot of sleep even. If you have bad sleep, levels of cortisol can increase, your stress hormone, and you could sometimes hold more body water abdominally sometimes. So it's just, you got to make sure that we're humans, we're not robots. Things change. We have random fluctuations, so don't worry about it. But what matters is the long-term gain or loss. So in the long term, if you see a trend of your weight going down, then that's what matters. Or if you see a trend subsequently of your weight going up, that's what matters. So the day-to-day is, that's just more pedantic. That's just whatever little fluctuations. But in a sense of over time, gain or loss, that's what really matters. That's what we got to focus on. That's what we're going to bring up here. So I'm going to bring up some of the benefits of, why weighing yourself is important. So if you're interested in losing weight or maintaining a weight, let's say you're in a sport, you want to maintain your weight, or if you just want to lose body fat or lose weight in general, you should weigh yourself every morning. Your weight is a great quantitative barometer as to how you're doing. It basically dictates if you're following your diet, if you're adhering to it good, that kind of thing. And essentially, if you're trying to lose body weight, you can use the scale as your friend by doing this protocol. So weigh yourself every morning, like we talked about after you go to the bathroom, and record that weight down. Then at the end of each week, you want to take those 7 weight values and take the median of those weights. Don't take the mean, because the mean is skewed by outliers. The median, as a statistic, for statistical analysis, it's not skewed by, random fluctuations, because sometimes day to day, we might have one day a week where it's like an outlier where we're like 2 pounds heavier for some reason. That's just random fluctuations, like I said, of sodium intake, carb intake, water intake. Maybe one day you had less sleep. So that's just an outlier. If you take the median, that's going to give you the best average of, okay, that's going to say, this is my median for the week. So once we get that number, you want to record that number down and say, okay, that's my median weight for the week. And then do that for the next week, another 7 values. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then compare the medians week to week and see the trend over time. If you're losing weight over time, if those median numbers are going down over time, you're doing a good job. If they're going up, maybe bring down the calories a bit, right? So it's important too that you should not be losing more than 1% of your body weight. So the most optimal place to lose body fat is 1% to 0.5% of your body weight per week. If we lose weight too fast, if you lose like 6 pounds in a week, you are at risk of, binging and essentially getting pretty hungry. Because remember, we talked about ghrelin. If we lose weight way too quick, our body's going to want to compensate because we don't want to die. Our body's going to be like, what's going on? We're losing weight so fast. We need to pull out all stops and make sure we eat. So we don't want to lose weight too fast. You want to lose weight at a slow, steady pace so we don't, end up binging. We want to be in it for the long haul, right? So we want to make sure how that goes. And then I believe session, let's see here, in session 7, we're actually going to go over, is fast weight loss to really the best weight loss? And this is like a precursor to that, basically no, and we're going to go into more detail about that. Let's see. Yeah. And one last thing too, make sure to weigh yourself if you're serious about losing body fat, if you want to lose weight, make sure you weigh yourself every day, because if you leave out data points, it can be hard. You might be coming to the wrong conclusion. So let's say I only weigh myself 4 days a week instead of like the full 7. Then what if in those 3 days a week, I actually was more than I should have been. That means you're leaving out those data points, and you might be wrongly assuming that you're doing good when realistically you should be cutting your calories a bit more. So always weigh yourself every day just to get a good idea about what to essentially do in that case. So this is what you should not use the scale for. This is what, like, if you're using the scale for this, don't do it. So don't be consumed by the scale. Don't, don't think of the scale as an indication of who you are or if you're doing bad or good. It's just simply a way to assess how you're doing. That's it. It's like just a little checklist. Okay, how's everything going? Don't be consumed. Don't put any emotion into the scale, right? So don't stress if you go up or down on a random day. Like I said, it's a long-term thing. So for example, here's an example for me. When I have sometimes my cheat meal or a cheat day, sometimes once in a week, I'll do something, I'll go out, have some food, I'll just eat. It doesn't matter. I've seen myself go upwards of around gain 5 pounds in a single day, but that's not fat at all. It's just water weight I've gained from eating all the carbs of maybe a pizza or something like that. Then after I end up losing the water weight a day or two later, and I'm back to my normal weight. So I don't get scared about the scale. I just shrug my shoulders and know that I'll be back down in a day or two. After that, once I get back onto my diet. It's if I ate like that for weeks and weeks on end, that's when it's an issue, right? Random days here and there, it's not a big deal, right? It's a long-term thing, right? So we need to make sure that we understand that. Let's see. So don't be obsessed with seeing the scale go down. I've seen this that from individuals who lose weight very rapidly, who have been obese and are losing weight and are successful in losing weight. They sometimes end up developing anorexia and certain eating disorders because they become addicted to seeing the scale go down. They just want to see it go down a number again and again and again. And I urge you to not do this or be obsessed with seeing it go down. Use it as, like I said, a barometer, a quantitative barometer to understand what you're doing, but don't put your self-worth into the scale going down. Don't put too much emotion and importance in seeing the scale go down. That's very important. And like I said, don't put emotion into the number, right? When you're in your car and you see the fuel tank gauge go up or down, you just use it as such. You use it as a gauge to decide if you should be getting gas or if you shouldn't be getting gas. Likewise with your weight scale, if your weight goes up a little bit, maybe that's just a gauge to say, oh, maybe I need to tailor back my eating a little bit. If it's going down like you want to, great, I'm on pace. Likewise, when you see your fuel tank go up and down, you don't get scared by your fuel tank. You don't get all emotional about it. Why do we get emotional about the weighing scale? It's the same thing, right? Just treat it as a way to quantify your progress. That's it. That's how I think of it, and that's how you should think of it. It's not a determinant on who you are as a person and your ability to look the way you want to look. It's basically a feedback mechanism that tells you how you're generally doing. Just don't take it to heart. And like I said, don't dread it. If you feel your heart beating before you step on the scale and you're like, oh my God, I wonder what the number is going to say. No, you're not, that shouldn't happen. It's really just a number, and it's not defining you. Please don't dread it. Just be optimistic with the scale. The scale's your friend. It's not out to get you. So please keep that in mind. Great. So it's the recipe of the week. It's this recipe for this week is pretty simple than my other past weeks. I know past weeks I've come up with more elaborate recipes of pancakes and French toast and other stuff like that, and different pizzas and stuff like that. But this is just chicken burgers. I mean, I've been eating this quite a bit. It's really good if you're trying to pack on muscle and stay full. It's really just, taking on 300 grams of ground chicken. You can see here really thick patties. And I take, 2 regular slices of white or whole wheat bread. If you're from BC, I like the bread from Save-On they make in there, because for around 50 grams, that 2 slices per 50 grams is what they usually make when they slice in the bakery. And it's, fairly thin slice. You don't want to get this sliced bread where it's way too thick sliced, because then you're eating more bread than you should. Usually, you should be looking for around 200-ish calories for your bread, for around 4 pieces of bread. If it's exceeding that number, then either the bread is too high in calorie, or you just have too thick, or the slices are just too thick. Then I put around 70 grams of lettuce, or a lot of lettuce. I like filling my food with lots of vegetables, because if you fill it with lots of vegetables, that means the food becomes larger in volume. But this is only 9 calories for 70, 80 grams. So it's low calories, high volume. So low calorically dense and high in volume. It's filling, it expands your stomach. You're going to feel like you're going to be eating a lot of food. So toss your greens in there. Always eat a lot of greens. It's very low calories. Still track them, but you're going to be feeling way more filled if you eat that stuff. And also, you know, and then one slice of low fat cheddar cheese, Cracker Barrel cheddar cheese, low fat ones. You can find them in the store. I split the cheese in half and then put one on each bun because they're pretty big already. Or, you know, Thin Sliced Kraft cheese. I know people, oh my goodness, it's preservative. It's not real cheese, but whatnot. But honestly, it really is calories in, calories out. If you have, I mean, I'm still having my greens. I'm still having proper protein sources. I'm still, you know, exercising. So a slice of Kraft cheese there isn't really going to make a difference. It's if you're having, let's say, for example, an alcoholic beverage a week, that has more negative effects than a slice of Kraft cheese. So just kind of keep that in mind, that if you're, as long as your diet is not 90% preservatives, then you're good, right? You know, tossing things here and there, don't feel bad about it. Then I have there's a 0-calorie ketchup I've been using called Mrs. Taste Ketchup. You can get it at Popeye Supplements. If I believe East Coast has Popeye Supplements as well, or you can get it online. It tastes like regular ketchup and it's 0 calories. So, I mean, hey, why not? And then some mustard there too. So pretty simple, you know, recipe this week, but it does the job. It's filling, it's high in protein, it keeps you full, and it's high in volume, right? This is exactly the type of food I advocate for. Low calorically dense, high in volume. So yeah, thank you so much for today. Now, just a little heads up, next week, which I believe is the 24th of February, we're going to take a break next week from sessions just to make sure everybody gets a chance to watch through the recordings on my channel, because there's been some questions about stuff I've already covered. So I just want to give you guys a chance to go back to those videos and catch up on that stuff if you haven't, just because if I keep steamrolling through the content, I don't want to leave any individuals behind. So our next session is going to be on March 3rd. That's going to be not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that. So yeah, and then same Zoom link as always. And session 6 is going to be cool. Now we're heading on the fitness aspect. It's about, you know, is weight training really just for bodybuilders? I've had questions. People are saying, you know, I don't really into like weightlifting, bodybuilding, you know, but I just want to lose body fat. Like, do I still have to do weights? Can I just do cardio? And this is going to answer that question. And also, once again, please feel free to email and contact me through my social media accounts. Right now I'm editing my workout video, my vlog as we speak. So that's going to be coming soon to my YouTube. And yeah, just before you guys ask your questions, there's some questions I think asked in the chat here. Here's a question that said, what about gluten-free bread? So yeah, if the gluten, I'm not too familiar with gluten-free bread. If the bread is low in calories and, you know, fits your macronutrients, then that's fine, right? Because like I said, it comes down to calories in, calories out. If you have recommendations from your physician to avoid gluten for specific reasons, then, you know, follow those recommendations. But if you don't have any specific recommendations to avoid gluten, just go for regular bread if you can. So that's my general recommendations for that. Any other questions, guys? Any questions? Please don't be shy. I know a lot of people have the same questions, so I'd love to hear them. No questions this week? Okay. Yeah, so I think that's it then. Thank you again for coming today. Like I said, I always appreciate it. And yeah, so March 3rd will be the next one, taking a little break next week. And I look forward to seeing everyone. Thank you so much.